Come on, everybody. Indeed, there's so much joy, peace in the kingdom of God. My dear listeners, we bless God that it's another day, it's another week. Indeed, glory be to Jehovah. I welcome you into the month of April. As we speak, March is gone, so 3 months gone. Where are you still standing? Always remember, the days are going. This is the voice of hope, yet again, with your presenter, Reverend Dr. Bolajoko. For those of us who may be new to the program, I am the pastor of the Reformed Church for Christians in God here in Ibadan. The church is at Akobo. And we thank God that He has been with us, strengthening us and encouraging us to share the truth of His word. Nowadays, there are so many people, so many out there, talking about a lot of things that they don't really know much about. Some of us think that what makes us pastors is because we went to a Bible school or Bible college or one university and we got a degree, maybe bachelor in theology, masters in theology, or we even went so far as to get a PhD. And many people think that is what makes one a pastor. Well, maybe if you are looking at the pastor who is a professional pastor, in the sense that pastoring is just like any other profession, same level as medicine, law, engineering, then maybe you are right. But if we begin to look at, is it just a degree you need to qualify to be a pastor, a correct, genuine pastor, in the true sense that God meant it to be? Then you may realize that it is not the degree that makes you the pastor. I'm not saying degrees are not necessary. Please understand that. They are good. Why? Because they give some sense of education that can help you to think better. That is right. So it is in that light that some people who say because God called them to be pastors, they don't need a degree at all. They don't need sound education at all. That's where they go wrong. To be a good pastor, you actually need both. That's true. You need to be called and certified by God. Then, by all means, acquire good education. You can only be better for it. You see, on this program, all we are trying to do is to actually apply the benefits of being called by God and being properly educated to reach out to you out there to reach out to you as to share with you that which is a well-balanced presentation. That's all we are trying to do. You may recall that last week I mentioned that we were about to discuss a rather sensitive matter. And we started our discussion last week. We got to a point where we were discussing the issue of entrapment. How thoughts, being of electrical activity nature, can influence somebody else. Why? Because each person truly is a transmitter. You can receive impulses and you can release impulses. And we said sin is a trap. We use the analogy of the typical traditional African hunting system, in which the hunter sets a trap that catches one of the limbs of the animal or uses a device that falls on top of the animal to entrap it. And we said that is exactly what sin is. Sin is a trap that starts with your thoughts. And that is exactly how somebody's action can influence you, because it starts from your thoughts. What you see, what you hear can lead you to start thinking. And what you start thinking of will define who you are and how you can fall into the trap. This program is coming to you live right now from Lead City 89.1 FM. And because it's a radio program, people can call in to share opinions or to ask questions. Therefore, let me give out some phone numbers that can be used. If you are calling out of Nigeria, you can use +234 805 094 2988. +234 805 094 2988. Or you can use +234 808 544 1425 or +234 706 956 6844. Any of those three numbers. I am coming to you live for those of you who are watching the Voice of Hope channel on Facebook. As it is, even Lead City 89.1 FM has activated its Facebook, which I think is Lead City 89.1 FM. So on either of the two channels, you can connect with us. We thank God it is another week, and we will continue where we stopped. That's where we will continue, where we stopped last week. If you recall, we started with, we started reading Matthew chapter 5, verse 31 and 32. I'll read it again. Please open your Bibles with me to Matthew chapter 5, and we'll start from verse 31. Okay, you are there. Beautiful. Now, it also used to be said that whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife, except on the ground of unfaithfulness, is making her an adulteress. And whoever marries the woman who had been divorced also commits adultery. Remember, we said this is a sensitive topic because many Christians nowadays don't really understand what Jesus was talking about. So they keep on insisting that Jesus had prohibited 100% completely divorces. Even if a woman or sometimes a man is suffering almost at the point of death, terrible abuses, causing terrible depressions, he cannot divorce. Now, let's look at what Jesus has said. Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce. That statement gives any man room for divorce. It does not specify reasons for the divorce. More often than not, that is what had always been the practice, even at the time of Jesus. That was what people believed. In continuation of his own teachings on adultery, Jesus further expands the scope of adultery by specifying that it is only in the cases of unfaithfulness that divorce is permissible. He thereby excluded the act of spurious divorce that Deuteronomy chapter 24 verse 1 permitted, which was what legally gave the men of old the right, so to say, to engage in frivolous reasons for wanting divorce. Now, Jesus' teaching has to be understood in the light of the fact that in his own time, as it still is nowadays, men would most often desire to divorce their wives on flimsy excuses, which might include, since I married her, I found that she cannot even cook well. Her behavior is not good enough. She is not submissive enough. She does not care about me. She does not satisfy me sexually. She no longer interests me. I don't love her anymore. And so many, many reasons like that. What is Jesus saying by his statement in Matthew chapter 5, 31, 32? Jesus is only saying that although the excuses proffered may appear to be good, they are nevertheless not good enough. You see, that actually is the key. not good enough. They are not good enough to justify divorce. So before you can divorce, which simply is a break of a promise, that's what divorce is. Divorce is the break of a commitment to ensure the success of a marriage venture. That's what divorce is. This clearly is expressed in Malachi chapter 2, verses 14 through to 16, that divorce is a break of a promise. You can check it up. Malachi chapter 2, 14 to 16. So, when people engage in spurious reasons for divorces, then they are trying to justify serial monogamy, which is actually just a way of trying to avoid polygamy. Many men nowadays engage in divorces because they are trying to avoid polygamy. That is not good enough. Christians often argue about the permissibility of divorce, claiming that it is forbidden. Now, the passage in Deuteronomy chapter 24, verses 1 to 4, which permits divorce, and the Malachi passage that I just quoted, chapter 2, 14 to 16, you will see from there that indeed God himself does not like divorce. Why? Because it negates the goal of a man and a woman coming together. The coming together of a man and a woman is not simply for sexual justifications. No. It is more than that. It is about the two of them bringing the challenges of their lives together and working with each other, cooperating to help each other to become better. Basically, that is the reason for marriage. Every other reason you can proffer are secondary reasons. So you can see that what Jesus is saying, that divorce is a very serious issue, a serious business, which is not to be taken or engaged in on frivolous basis. Therefore, Jesus pointedly stood against divorce that was not based on proving solid ground. As a matter of fact, Jesus' teaching does not entirely forbid divorce, but then his teaching makes divorce a lot more difficult. How? The clear ground is when the woman is involved in extramarital affair. That is the clear ground. This could be due to the fact that, unlike men who could engage in sexual act with anybody, any woman, just for fun and enjoyment, the woman naturally finds that difficult to do. If you're a man, please talk to a woman. Ask them what I'm talking about now. Women on a general basis, especially married women, don't find it easy to engage in sexual act just based with any man other than their husband, just based on I want to enjoy or just for the fun of it. Why? It is because for the woman, the married woman especially, the act of having sexual intercourse has a lot of emotional attachment, which most men don't have the capability to develop. That is the truth. Most married men who engage in extramarital affairs, they do so because they actually lack the emotional capacity to be devoted to one woman. Honestly, that is the reason. Whereas most married women naturally develop that ability. They do. It is easier for the woman to develop that capability. I must concede that fact. That yes, it is easier for the woman. Why? Because that is the nature of women. That's why women who jump from bed to bed, honestly, they have a problem. Why? Because something has gone wrong with their natural endowment from God. If you recall, somewhere along the line, I think it was maybe around November, early December last year, we discussed that men and women as created by God have natural abilities that are not equal. Men have some gifts, some abilities that make them stronger, and they naturally perform better those roles. Whereas women have some other natural abilities where they are stronger than men. Sexual capability to restrain, to control self, women are usually stronger. That is a fact. Now, when we are now discussing emotional attachment to sex, women are more sensitive. That is why if a woman is ever forced into having sex with any man she doesn't really care about, that woman will feel violated. That woman will feel abused. And such strong feelings may persist in that woman for a long time. Even if at that time she was not married, she may carry the feeling over for many years, even into when she gets married. Hence, more often than not, a married woman will find it very difficult to engage in extramarital affair unless that woman has already lost interest in her husband. Please pay attention to what I just said. When a woman, married woman, decides to have an affair with another man, it means something is already wrong with her in her mind where her husband is concerned. It can therefore be taken that a married woman who engages in extramarital affair is no longer interested in a marriage. So, in such a case, it might be permissible for the husband to seek divorce. So, look back to what Jesus said and look at what we are saying now and see how you can have an improved perspective. So, in such cases, divorce, excuse me, divorce is not compulsory. If the man is willing to give the woman a second chance at rebuilding the marriage, even in the case that he actually caught the woman in adultery. You remember the case of the woman that was supposedly caught in adultery, and they brought her to Jesus for judgment. This exactly is the reason why Jesus didn't condemn her. Jesus saw more than what everybody saw. Jesus saw that, look, something was not right. And whatever was not right in that marriage may not have exactly been the fault of the woman. Of course, more often than not, faults are shared. It's never 100% one person. It could be 90 to 10 ratio. It could be 80 to 20 or 60 to 40, 50 to 50. It doesn't matter. When something goes wrong in a marriage, usually the husband, the wife share the fault. To some extent, the two of them must bear responsibility. So, Jesus is only telling us that anyone who marries a woman and divorces her for no just cause, if that woman gets married again, then she becomes an adulteress. And the woman who marries her becomes an adulterer by association. This is because as long as the ground for divorce is not justified, the bond of marriage, the promise the two of them made to each other in the spirit realm is still standing. Irrespective of whether a court gave the divorce or not. What does the court do? The court of man gives a legal certificate of divorce. Of course, if we must stand back, we may want to discuss how does a marriage even come about? Many of us, we like to believe that a marriage is contracted just because we went to a registry and somebody did some ceremony, or we went to a church and one pastor did a ceremony. We think that is how a marriage is just contracted. Let me give you one or two reasons why that may not be entirely the case. Marriage, in its true sense, was not the purview of a pastor or a law court or a registrar in one marriage registry. No. Marriage essentially was the business of the father of the bride and the father of the groom and their families. Marriage is about agreement. So that is why, my dear listeners, if you are living with a woman now and you have not gone to her father or whoever stands in father figure position over her to seek permission, honestly, you never marry, you have not married. You are just harboring somebody's daughter. A marriage is truly conducted when you agree with a woman. You promise her. She makes a promise to you. And her family, father, mother, relations, and yours also come together to say, we agree. Going to a pastor is good. Having a church wedding is good. Honestly, very good. But the pastor is not the one that validates your marriage. He is only a witness to the fact that you and your people have agreed and you have married a woman. That is what nowadays we refer to as traditional marriage. That is the truth of the matter, whether you like it or not. I'm a pastor. Of course, you come to me. I will conduct a marriage ceremony for you. But the first question I will ask you is, have you fulfilled the traditional duties required of you? If you have not, I'm not likely to get you married. That is the truth. Because I cannot validate what you have not correctly done. I will only be committing a wrong upon a wrong. And two wrongs have been taught will never make a right. So, when you have been properly married to a woman, be careful. Because divorce is not an easy thing. In essence, the implication is that divorce is to be predicated on not just what the man feels or what the man wants. Rather, divorce is predicated on whether the woman herself is still interested in the marriage. This, therefore, makes it more difficult to get divorced, and men would find it more difficult to become serial monogamists. For emphasis, the determinant of whether there will be a divorce or not is the incontrovertible action of the woman that will clearly show that she no longer accepts the man as her husband. Please think about that for a moment. I know that is a mouthful. I know it is. Honestly, it is. I know. But think about it for a moment. While you are thinking about it, I will like us to look at this song and enjoy it, and also maybe meditate about it. All of them are good. The song is Master, Speak, Thy Servant Heareth. Master,
silent hearers, waiting for thy gracious word. Longing for thy voice that cheereth, Master, let it now be heard. I am listening, Lord, for thee. What hast thou to say to me? Speak to me, my little Master. Let me know it is to me. Speak that I may follow faster, with a step more firm and free. When the shepherd leads the flock in the shadow of the rock, Master, speak the least and lowest, let me not unheard depart. Master, speak, for thou knowest
This hymn
of the yearning of
that you are hearing is actually an exhortation. Master, speak, for your servant is listening. Do you have that kind of frame of mind to hear the Master speak to you? Please, that is the most important thing you can achieve if you are a Christian. To have that frame of mind that says, speak, Lord, for your servant listens.
Master, speak, oh, speak to me.
Master, speak. I want to say thank you to you, my Facebook listeners, and thank you to you listening on radio. I see that there are a few people on Facebook already. Thank you to each of you. I want to pick somebody, Michael Yanni. I'm not sure if you're a Nigerian, but I would like to interact with you. You can send me a message or something, Michael Yanni, on Facebook. My mind reaches out to you right now. So we'll continue. Matthew chapter 5. Let's go to verse 33. And that will take us through verse 37. Jesus is still speaking to somebody even tonight. Again, you have heard that people in the old days were told, you shall not swear falsely, but shall perform your oaths to the Lord. But I say to you, don't use an oath at all. Don't swear by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, nor by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. No, don't swear by your own head, for you cannot make a single hair white or black. Whatever you have to say, let it be yes, a plain yes, and let it be no, a simple no. Anything more than yes or no has a taint of evil. Now, most people nowadays don't understand this passage at all. Why? They don't understand because they never learned to understand the basic 10 commandments. That is the reason. It is in the commandments that you will find the law that says, don't you ever take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Meaning, don't ever use the name of God in vain. How do you use the name of God in vain? Whenever you call the name of God, when you don't have to, you have taken the name of the Lord God Jehovah in vain. So you'll hear people talking, I swear, in God's name I swear. Also, before you know it, Jesus, they are calling Jesus. They are joking and they are calling Jesus' name. Please, from today, understand that it is a grave offense against the Lord. Now, the importance of this teaching from Jesus is the need for each and every believer to develop his or her own personal integrity to the level that everyone will be able to take you as a believer at your word. When you say something, they know that your word is your bond. Why? Because they know that you are reliable, you are trustworthy. In fact, I tell people around me that when you are talking to me and you begin to swear, immediately I begin to suspect that you are not a trustworthy person. Honestly, I begin to suspect you. Because you put me on the alert to say, watch out, this person may not be a honest person. Because he doesn't have personal integrity. That's why he has to call on the name of God to try to prove a point. And oftentimes, it's because these people don't even know God. That's why they are dropping the name. They are name droppers, most of them. Go and find out for yourself. Most people who call God's name to justify their actions, they are name droppers. They don't know God. Every genuine believer should never have a need to prove a point by swearing to establish the truth of what he or she is saying. Unfortunately, most of us who call ourselves Christians nowadays, we are so far from the level of integrity that is required. Why? Simply because trust has become a very scarce commodity in the interactions between and among so many so-called Christians today. This is not only in secular activities, even in church. That's true. Many pastors find it difficult to trust congregants. In fact, many congregants don't even trust their pastors. Yesterday, my wife was watching one video clip on WhatsApp. And I heard some of the things the woman who was speaking was saying. So I got interested and I said, please, let me see that. What happened? The woman went to see a pastor, a young pastor, and said, are you pastor so and so? He said, yes. He said, I have come with this woman who is my sister-in-law to take this car from you. What happened? The woman who was speaking, okay, let me differentiate the two women now. Let me say the older woman and the younger woman. The older woman who was speaking said, my junior brother sent this car from Europe to his wife. He's been there for 10 years struggling. And he's just been able to send this car so that the wife will find it easier to take the children to school and stop hopping from one bike to keke and things like that. The woman took the new car to the church for pastor to pray over it. She went to make testimony. And immediately, pastor told her, my sister, God is saying you must sow this car as a seed into the ministry. And the woman left the car and went back home. Well, the woman took the car. She forcefully wrestled the key out of the pastor's hand and she drove the car away. Now, the truth is this. Did God tell that pastor to tell the woman to sow the seed of a car? Sincerely, in my heart, I believe it's no. So, because of lack of integrity, the pastor lied. In fact, as he was talking to that woman, it was so obvious that he was so unconvincing. He was lying. It was so obvious. Why? Is that what the Lord wants of us? Of course, the woman herself, what does she know about God? You see, that becomes a problem. She didn't know much. She probably had been attending church all her life, I agree. But she never knew much about God. That's why it was so easy for the pastor to tell her something to bamboozle her, so to say. Pastors nowadays hardly trust their congregants. And the congregants find it difficult to trust themselves or even trust their pastors. Jesus, by his statements in Matthew chapter 5, verses 33 to 37, hereby links the 9th commandment, which deals with the issue of false testimony, with your level of trustworthiness and personal integrity as vital issues in the spiritual development of any believer. Think about that and digest it. Personal integrity is an indication of the level of your own trustworthiness. And by extension, I will tell you, your personal integrity is directly proportional and reflects the level of your righteousness in God. Take it or leave it. That is the truth. And Jesus is now saying, when your integrity is low, you will be one that will commit false testimony. You will bear false witness against man and against God. Now, Many of us, we are aware that even in the court of man, in a law court, swearing a false oath, which is called perjury, is a serious crime that can send you to prison for some years. Depending on the country, the jail term will vary. But in some places, you may go to jail for as long as 3 years for perjury. If that is so in the case of man's court, what do you think? Or let me change that. How serious do you think that will be? Perjury, using the name of God falsely. How much do you think it will weigh in God's courts? Believe it or not, one's level of trustworthiness and personal integrity is directly related to one's commitment to and the extent of one's attainment of righteousness. Oh yes, that is it. Now let's move on to Matthew chapter 5, and we will look at verses 38 and 39. We may not be able to go beyond that tonight, or we may not even finish the exposition on that passage, because I can see that studio time is running out. Now, Jesus says, you have heard that it used to be said. Now, please, let me step back before we continue. Have you noticed that in the last few passages, Jesus always referred to what he was to say by referring it back to what used to be? Please pay attention to that. He wants to say something, but he will first say, okay, come, I'm about to tell you something. But do you know that before now, this was how it was? Why do you think that was important? Even now, for you to take note of. It is simply because Jesus is making you to recall what used to be before he gives you what should be. In psychology, they say if you have learned something and it's not right, it's the wrong thing, you must remember it and make effort to unlearn it before you can learn the correct thing that is now new to you. That exactly is what Jesus is doing here. So, my dear listeners, please pay attention. Jesus is telling you, in fact, he's asking you, what are the wrong things that you have learned? Go back to them. Unlearn them so that you can learn something new. Learn the correct thing. You have heard that it used to be, they used to say, they used to teach people an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. That used to be the standard. But then, from now on, I am telling you, don't apply that principle anymore. That's what Jesus is saying. He says, instead, don't resist the man who wants to harm you. If a man hits your right cheek, turn the other one to him as well. Or, how is that? Sincerely, when we look at the mind of man, Jesus was very stupid in what he just said. Honestly, it must have been very stupid from the mind of a man. Because how can you tell me I should not resist? I should turn even the other cheek when they slap me on one cheek. I should turn the other as well. Isn't that stupid? I will tell you something before we go. The common sense of man was not what Jesus was applying in all his teachings. No. Jesus strictly applied the common sense of God. And you know what? The common sense of God is uncommon. The common sense of man is not of God. So when they say common sense is not common, you must ask yourself, which common sense? The common sense of man is very common. That's why anybody can lie, can cheat, can fornicate, can commit adultery, can be dishonest, can be unfaithful, can be whatever. And when they do all those things, they think they are being smart. They think, in fact, their friends will be hailing them as if they have done something wonderful. That is man's common sense. But in the eyes of God, from the perspective of God, common sense of God is not common. And what Jesus is telling us tonight is we must learn to seek a better understanding in the light of God's own common sense, which unfortunately is not common. So, I would like us to stop here tonight. May the Lord God Jehovah keep you. In the days ahead, may His Spirit energize you. In case you have a desire to interact with me, either by text message, regular text message, or WhatsApp message, or you even want to call, you can use +234 808 204 4445. 234 808 204 4445. That is a good line to use. You can call, you can send a message, text message, regular text, WhatsApp, please feel free. We thank God for how far He has brought us tonight. As we go, God bless you.
Lord bless you and keep you. Make His face shine upon you. Be gracious.
God bless you.